known at all.
Dang.
Remember that there is a bunch of Europeans and journalists who are, in fact, following this. So the trickery and deceit that they use is they put out in the media that they had revoked her bond because she didn't show to court. Well, there was nobody in the court to prove that she didn't, but she really did. All right, so now, then they came in and, put handcuffs on her. Yeah, I'm serious. Then they released her on her own recognizance just long enough to get that crack into the media for that to be what the reporters reported. Follow me?
Yeah.
That's what happened. So we're going to let you go. Then, this is another then, the magistrate, who was the one who put the bond out on in the first place, and who all of the people who are receiving the information are looking at this as a hot potato, don't want to touch it. No other magistrate wants to deal with it. They keep kicking it back to him. He decides he's going to change their mind and put her in jail for contempt because she refused on that same day, because she refused to get a court-appointed attorney. But it's all just temporary. But I'm saying this is the stuff that they do. So, anyway. Oh, and one last thing. I just got an email. Peace, it's not right. Oh, that's beautiful. I just got an email that the IRS is being charged for messing with or stealing or doing something, I can't remember the headline, with state benefits. How about that? The IRS is being charged for, I don't want to say embezzling, but whatever, say embezzling, I can't remember what the word was because I checked it as I left, with messing with state benefits. Can you believe that? IRS is being charged for messing with state benefits.
That's what I say.
And the other last thing, Obama's talking, listen, these Europeans sent this brother named Fontaine. Everybody know Fontaine, right?
Yes.
Yes. They sent him a letter, a notice through the mail because they thought he was European because of his apparent last name. So what they did is they sent him a letter and said, listen, we got to fight that Ron Paul group. Boy, these Europeans are having a problem. We got to fight the fact that Obama's going to have a nationality card, or make everybody have a nationality card because nationality is a call of the day.
That's right.
And he says, help us out because thinking he's another European. Well, I got the email sent to me. I think I got a copy of it in the bag, but this is what is going on. We were just talking, myself, my son, and Eve. What kind of nationality card would they produce? The United States of America nationality card? No,
doesn't exist.
What they do, it's over.
Right.
Oh, and one last thing. Lamont, I talked to Brother Lamont this morning. He called me. He said that there was another brother, 20 years old, youth, went into the court down here in Maryland, stood on the square. The magistrate said, well, you have a right to challenge jurisdiction, and you have a right, listen closely, to put in a motion to dismiss. I said, y'all didn't fall for that, did you? Because now they don't know what to say. They're going to say put in a motion. Everybody here knows you don't put in motions because they can be what? Denied.
Yes.
It's at the discretion, like a corporate meeting. I motion, we buy new chairs. If I don't get a second, it don't fly. So you don't put motions in. But this is what they're saying now. They really are kind of lost. However, if you don't know where you are, they'll grab it. They'll mess you up if you don't know. And lastly, not done yet, but lastly, there's a video I think, I didn't tell y'all about it, but it happened after we left here. There's some brothers who got stopped, hindered, and they stood on their square. Son, you saw that video. Can you just talk about the video where they stood on the square? Was it in Atlanta?
Oh yeah, they was in Northwest Africa, what they call Georgia today. And pardon me, I just give a recap because it's very short and to the point. and you can check it out. It's called Drake versus Police. Pardon me, I'll find out the right.
Drake versus Police.
Yeah, that's D-R-I-E-K. And it's 2 parts. The first part is like 7 minutes, and then it paused because, you know, they went back, the policy enforcers went back to the conveyance to check everything out. But it's about like 9 minutes altogether. The first part is like 7 minutes and some change, and then the second part is like 2 minutes and some odd seconds. But basically the brothers, you know, they stood there square. And this is what I was talking about and was trying to get across on the radio, is that when it comes to demonstrating with the nationality card or the national principles, honestly, and just from my experience, what I've seen, it's not really the Europeans who give us a problem, it be our own.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
And that is so true. They demonstrated that in the movie Django as well. They definitely showed
Oh
that.
yeah, Samuel Jackson.
But that's the real truth. So like, you know, that's what we gotta really try to get out and uplift is our own. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down, it's just those who don't know, it's you know, it's hard to like get them out of that because they're so adopted to being U.S. soldiers. So, you know what I mean? It's a good video for you to check out. But long story short, the brother, you know, it was a brother, a Moor, in a blue suit, Roman soldier suit, who approached some other Moors, and Moors were standing their ground, just said, look, I don't have a corporate state ID. I got my identification papers and my conveyance right here. This is what it is. But the policy enforcer didn't want to go into his conveyance because he already knew that was a liability regardless of what. Because he was like, if I go and find something, you coming with me, straight up. So he didn't want to go search his car, but he, of course he called for backup. And I don't want to tell you the whole story because y'all can see it for yourselves if you have internet access. But long story short is they left the man alone.
Oh wait, you forgot one part. They asked him, we need to see an identification with the expiration date. So the brother said, I don't know when I'm going to expire. You know when you
So yeah, that was a stern answer. So you know, but the interesting thing is if you really watch the psychology of it, the policy enforcer, once he saw how the brother was talking, he dispatched like sovereign citizen. And the brother was like, listen, I'm not a sovereign citizen. He was like, I don't care. He was like, I wasn't talking to you. So if you really look at what he's saying, that's a code word. You know what I mean? It's not really your identity. Like, it's just a code word. More or whoever know the law, sovereign citizen. But whatever, they told him to stand down at the end of the day. So that's another victory because every traffic complete is a victory. So, you know,
So we can check that on the website, Barrett?
it's on Google. Google.com. We'll make the direct link announcement before we leave today.
Yeah, we'll call it.
Anything. So
there
just
is one more.
before we leave, we'll get
One more. And you know, no names, but it's something that we need to get, we talked about this today. You know, sometimes people, you know, be it sons or daughters, but mostly sons because they have testosterone, you know, when they out there like that, you know, they're gonna die with their sword and stuff. But we have to remember that the prophet said to put a circle around your passions and square up your conduct.
That's right.
And a lot of sons have not, not all, have not curtailed that because of their nature, you know? So we were dealing with one brother, we found out later, well, long story short, that, you know, they were like kind of arrogant with the policy enforcers, you know, like, yeah, it's my privilege, yeah, like that. Don't do that. That's not putting a circle around your passions, squaring up your conduct, and talking in an intelligent tone. This is the beast that you're dealing with. So if you're gonna talk to the beast like that, he's gonna use whatever he got, because they're already afraid of us anyway. So why be intimidated?
Yeah, basically, if you roar at a lion, you're gonna get bit. And that's not to say don't rebel, but like even if when you see lion tamers, like they come and taming the lion, you know, so it doesn't hurt them. Like if they come at the lion aggressive and threatening, it's gonna lash out. So that's just in the cause of what she's saying. When you're dealing with these people, think of it just like a beast. Like if you want to be stern, you want to take control of the situation, but you yourself want to refrain from just lashing
Yes.
out. That's the key.
Yes.
And that's back to the science called prudence. And so you get jurisprudence. And
It's
it's not.
I just want to add on to the cipher that's why in the Moorish literature you hear or you read about Noble Ali, Sharif Abdul Ali mentions about when you're out and about, don't use any agitating speeches.
Flash the card.
Don't flash your cards.
That's what
It's
they
for your salvation because that's the private aspect of it. But in Act 4, I think it's the additional laws. I think it's additional laws in Act 4. While making a public speech, you should not use any assertion, agitating speeches or any assertion against the American flag or any other organization, blah, 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 with for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And I had that couple of situations with some young brothers that they get the documents not realizing that they're just documents.
Right. It's a whole body. It's a whole soul and the aura that goes with it.
Yeah.
You can't just send, and I'll quote the brother Mink on this, you just sending paperwork. It's like sending empty vessels, like the card Krishna, Jagannath gold,
Yes,
empty
sir.
vessels. This is what basically what you're doing. So if you don't reflect, like, cause see, like in prime example, like they know when you reflect like not that we don't all have it, but they know if you just put in a piece of paperwork and think they just gonna bow down. Like they're not gonna do that. Like you're gonna have to demonstrate some way, some form, whether it be through actions or through just, giving off that prudent energy in the flesh that you're not Negro, black, and colored. You know what I mean? Because that means you're capable of reflecting light. Because when you're not Negro, black, and colored, you can reflect light on the spot, like it's known. So these people know that, like they know when you know. And the brother was just speaking about that outside. Like whenever you're dealing with them, it's always just an IQ test or an intelligence test.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing. Because they are psychologists. Yeah, it's a culture test. They're psychologists, like they do this, like, you know what I mean?
Can we also make it, when you said against the American flag, to really look at that again? Because what is the American flag? It's the Moorish nation. It's the Amaraka flag. So when the prophet said don't do that, he was talking about the flag.
Right.
He wasn't talking about the Star Spangled Banner.
So it's like shooting ourselves in our own foot.
That's why you said it.
By not knowing the history.
There you go.
That's the danger.
Yeah, and
Throwing the baby out the bathwater type thing.
and before I officially get off the stage, I just want to say, like, for those who like don't understand, like, or have the courage to fly our Moorish flag, like, just please get familiar with world history, because it is our flag not just flown here, but all over the planet Earth, everywhere. So I just want to say that when you get into world history, like you'll immediately see that Moors are everywhere. So it should be no shame or thinking that, your flag is foreign to here, because it's the quote-unquote Moroccan flag, and it is the Moroccan flag, but you have to understand the world history of Morocco to have that confidence to know how it applies here. And I felt like that had to be addressed. So with that, I say peace and love.
Peace and love. Islam, how you doing? I'm good. One more time.
Now keep in mind what Mick was saying, but the principle really is the common law principle. That's what is really behind it. And it must be comprehended and understood that all those magi are Masons. And they already know the culture, and they're running the fundamental government after the imperial disbanded. Now they're operating under feudal law because we're not stepping up to the law. So that, like, they're using that as an excuse. And so keep in mind that in order to bring the common law into trump their statutory codes, you must demonstrate that you have a knowledge of your own culture. And this is back to where Noble Ali said that we must fess up to those constitutional principles. The reason why, because they come from Muslim law. And Obama's been saying it and hinting to these people, wherever, because he's a constitutional lawyer.
Yeah.
You gotta remember that. And so, he's sending the signals for us to take responsibility, etc. I mean, because it's like he's not gonna sit around and argue with us when he's sending signals, and people better stop looking for some sacrificial lamb and start taking responsibility and honoring their mothers and fathers like everybody else does. Because that's what the world's looking for us to do. ETC.
The mic is on.
Huh?
The mic is on.
All right. It's on.
Push it up.
It's on. All right. Peace, y'all. The 7 Hermetic principles are the foundation, philosophically, of what you call religion. And this is important for you to know because all high priests are made privy to this, regardless of what so-called religion they may be participants in. This is the foundation of the philosophies of religion, whether it's Islam, Judaism, Confucianism, Buddhism, Christianity in its metaphysical form, what they call Christian Science. It's like Moorish science, still the same stuff. Now, keep in mind that it's not given to the general masses, and therefore there's assumptions on the part of many people that go to the different houses that they call religious houses, assume that they have things different. What they do have different is the dogma or the control mentality. But the foundation of religion is one, and the truth don't pass away, and that's the foundation. And so when you're looking at any of the holy books, having this knowledge allows you to read those holy books with a more of a conscious mind, and also get more out of them philosophically. And of course, being the fact that you're now in the Aquarian age, you need to know this stuff anyway, because what was ain't gonna work anyway anymore. The mentality, yeah. Kai value, interesting. Yeah, let me see that just a minute. Right here.
Let's go back to the basics, baby.
Now this particular book, Kaibalion, this is a one of a series of books, but this is a basic book that every high priest has. All grand sheets, all reverends, all rabbis, all imams, etc. But they don't expose this to the masses because then you have a tendency not to give them Jesus' head. And so the 7 Hermetic principles. Now in secret societies, the Hermetic law will be referred to as Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes also relates to Dawiti, Tehudi, Thoth, etc. All of those different names apply to Hermes. Are we clear? The first principle is mind. All is mind and everything is energy. The universe is mental. 2, correspondence. As it is above, so it is below. As it is below, so it is above. Reflecting congruent qualities. And the symbol that represents this is what you call Hex Alpha, or what you call the Jewish star. That is represented in correspondence. Number 3, vibration. Nothing is stationary, and everything vibrates, giving off light and sound. Number 4, polarity. Everything is double, and everything has its opposite. Thus, extremes meet. Number 5, rhythm. All is ebb and flow, as demonstrated by action and reaction, advance and recoil. 6, cause and effect. Nothing happens by chance. Everything happens by law. 7, generation. Generation is manifest in everything, and everything, animate and inanimate, is masculine and feminine. That's very important because this is also demonstrated in the principle or the word Eloah, which is mother, father. Mother, father, masculine, feminine. You see? And this is one of the reasons why the priesthood removed the feminine principle from religion in order for that the popes of Rome could rule the world. And this is what made it necessary for them to develop what is known as dogma. And dogma is counterfeit religion. And the masses get dogma. The priesthood get religion. And so this is important for you to understand so that you also don't get caught up in the schisms that are designed in different religions, which they call secularism. Because the secularisms or the sects were created also for that same purpose, to create divisions for control purposes. Are we clear? And keep in mind, those who create the schisms know these rules. But they can only get away with the secularism when they're dealing with people who don't know the rules. Are we clear? Yes. So this is why we're sharing the rules with you, so that you don't get spooked up, you know, relative to things that we may share with you, also relative to what anybody else may share with you in the name of religion. Because this is the universal rule. It's just that it's not given to believers. It's only you maintained amongst the priesthood. Are we clear? Now keep in mind also, part of the mission of Noble Dwali is to pull the covers off of all secret organizations. And also to expose the fundamental principles for the purpose of dissolving the corruption of the priesthood by exposing what the priesthood knows and giving it to the common man. Are we clear? Once you do some examination or some real studies into ancient religion, you'll find this stuff out yourself. But the deal of it is usually the stuff is padded with a lot of stories. And so once you understand the rules, you can understand the stories. And most of the stories that you read in the different books about different characters actually have to do with different energy activities within your body. And the activation of those energies, the development of the body forms. And so the body forms are given names, and usually the names that you would consider as men and women in history, but they're also related to activities in your body, the development of your body, or they say the Christ, the body of Christ. Or that in the Christ actually is in reference to Krishna, which actually means the burnt one. But the burnt one represents the activation of the pineal gland, and thus the ascension or nirvana, the activation of the chakras, the 7 wheels, etc. You know, you have many more wheels, but you have 7 major chakras, and so everything that is based divine in divine law is based on 7. So whether you're dealing with 7 golden candlesticks, 7 counter rotations around Kaaba, etc., 7 Hermetic principles, 7 eyes of Allah, 7 days of the week, they're all related. And all of them represent energies. Therefore, you have to study the energies to understand what this stuff relates to, you see. And of course, it's important to get a background into world history and philosophy in order to comprehend the philosophies behind what appears to be personalities. And once you get past the spookism, logically, the priesthood is no longer necessary. Because the first thing you recognize that they've been lying to you. Do you understand? of course, now, and as the priesthood loses their power, the truth that is by divine law and nature with people just simply activates on its own, meaning that your chakras will activate on their own. It's just that our belief systems that we've adopted from the priesthood have been actually turning your will against yourself and calcifying your pineal gland, meaning you've been shutting yourself down by belief systems that have nothing to do with real truths. Sound good, but do not deal with the fundamental truths. So also keep in mind, when you're dealing with these magi, it's like Miss Rain was talking about earlier, right? They're all high priests. All your so-called magistrates, those are magi. You understand? All your politicians are magi. All your reverends are magi. Your grand chiefs, your seekesses, skull and bones, Knights Templar, Knights Columbus, daughters of American Revolution, daughters of ISIS. They all are high priests. The masses have been pretty much the food, and that's basically what's been going on the planet. And the deal of it is, the prophet came to relieve you from the priesthood. The priest told you he came to relieve you from the devil. But the prophet came to relieve you from the priesthood. Which one you believe? After examination, you're going to find out what you thought the devil was, all the negatives. You'll find the qualities in the priesthood that's been feeding you the game all these generations. And even with their secret agreements with the very Romans that murdered the prophets. You know, once you understand this stuff, basically you begin to get mentally free. And once you get mentally free, you start getting past the first one. Now you understand, like even when you see the lessons, when it says, who made you? Allah. Who is Allah? Father of the universe. Giving you codes, giving you keys. Once you begin to start studying this, you understand the universe is what? The cosmos. Universe and cosmos are one. Then you find out that what? Real religion is cosmology, the study of the universe. This is why all of your so-called religious orders have symbols of stars, moons, crescents, etc., because it's cosmology. And once you begin to study the philosophies behind the religions, not the religions themselves, because most of them are what you call filler. And filler is sort of like, you know how like you have a fundamental principle of truth, and then you build a book around it, and you can pad it and come from different angles. But really the truth only requires a little pamphlet. It really does. You know, however, you can build a lot of stuff around it. And this is what is done with the holy books, in a sense. Because they're all essentially cosmology books, astrology books. The different levels, whether you deal with geographic astrology, personal astrology, on the horoscopes on the person, projected forward and backwards, calculated, family planning, etc. All of it is cosmogony, a study of the universe, its reflections on you, the push and pull energies, the pull or the advance and recoil, reflection, light, sound, etc. Its reaction with your five senses, its stimuli that activates the insight and the intuition that makes seven senses, the binding of all of the senses that make one eye or one seeing. All those symbols simply recognize or represent the activation of the body, the acceleration of the body, the advancement of the being, the acceleration of the being. Meaning that who you were or who you are when you first come here in the flesh is not necessarily who you really are, just because you're using those bodies. Because many of the babies, they're ancient people. You know, because the spirit has no age. You know, and so the real science is for you to have the capacity to start both preparing the clay, or would you say preparing the bodies for those who need to come to cure the problems of the planet. And this is where the science of religion actually is applied. And so when you hear Moorish science, it simply means the truth of cosmogony. When you're saying Christian science, you're saying exactly the same thing. You know what I mean? It's just that people are never given the science. They're given statements without the knowledge. It is physics.
So like, is that the reason why really highly educated people know this stuff just automatically, like you said, if you have a PhD, then you know you have to,
Doctors of philosophy.
Yeah, that's the reason why, because
This is why you see, like most really educated people call religion, but they're really talking about dogma. When they say religion is an opiate for the masses, which means it's a drug. Why?
Puts them to sleep.
Say it again?
Yeah, puts them to sleep.
Yes, it's designed to do so. But the deal of it is they're not telling all the truth because the masses haven't been given religion. They've been given dogma. Just like, the same way the masses have been given fiat and told that it's money, the masses have been given dogma and told that it's religion. And so, unfortunately, a lot of times when people begin to wake up, they condemn religion when they really shouldn't, because most of them never had religion. It's just like people been getting fiat for generations and always argue about they're always broke and they ain't got no money. The statement is false because they assumed they had money when they've never been paid. And the same thing with the dogma. The masses have been given dogma and they've been told they were given religion. But the priesthood know that they have not been given the masses religion. And so the masses are always arguing with each other and debating their different versions of God, Allah, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, whatever game they're playing, whatever flavored ice cream. You know what I mean? And the deal with this doesn't mean reject it. It means get a proper understanding and comprehension of what you're dealing with. That's the duty of the redeemers. And when Noble Drawley said he has a cure for the sin-sick world, that's what he's telling you. But you have to study in order to understand what he brought you. That's why he said it might take you 50 years to recognize what I brought you. So you're dealing with both religion and you're dealing with the return of an estate. And so, whereas many people think this stuff is separated, they think it's separated from the politics, this is the politics of the world. And that's another reason why, they tell you, separation of church and state, and that's a falsehood. Never was. All of the priests, all of the politicians are high priests, and in secret, they deal with this knowledge. This is another reason why, when you're dealing with the magi's and you're dealing with different legal problems, etc., you're thinking a law from a concept of rule or policy, and when they walk in and out, they're also dealing ecclesiastically, because they're all high priests. A lot of times they'll say they'll leave a court, like they'll take a break, right? They'll come in on say a booty and prize venue on admiralty law, right? Take a break, come back. He come back as ecclesiastical. Then he take another break, come back as a deputy knight for the popes of Rome.
How can you tell?
Huh?
How can you tell? What can you?
When they step away, they're always changing venue.
All right.
Every time they step off, they're changing venue. Once you know they're doing this stuff, because remember, they're what the people think the demons are is really these priests. One of the hardest things to get to people's heads is thinking that these people that run around saying Jesus, God, Allah, Muhammad, and everything really got love for humanity. Not that some of them don't. Do you understand? But for the most part, if they love the humanity, they would tell them the truth. And so since they're not telling the truth, they're with the rest of them. When you know something is fraud or misrepresented, Do you go along with the crowd or do you tell the truth? Isn't the truth this? If you see a crime taking place and you don't report it or to try to bring some remedy to it, isn't that called conspiracy? Collusion? Huh?
Yes.
So what occurs with a priest, whether he's an imam or a rabbi or a reverend, that know this because they get this, and have people thinking they're getting religion, knowing that the masses never get religion, and they keep taking people's finance and keep them spinning around generation after generation, hoping and praying and marching and keep hope alive on one of these days, and the promise from God type thing, forever and ever, and they watch families fall apart, watch babies dying younger and younger on the street, watch people always starting organizations talking about giving the children self-esteem and everything, and they know what's exactly what's wrong with these children. They've been messed up by their mothers who keep delivering them to these high priests who are really the ones that's creating the evils on the planet. This is why the Holy Quran also, with the Book of the East, exposes the priesthood. This is why Drawley said what? I come to make you priests unto yourselves. You understand? Because if you don't have the knowledge, logically, two things are going to happen. You're going to follow the dogma that they give you, or you're going to reject everything and then start condemning religion where the tools are that you need. You see the whole point? When the real deal, you wasn't getting religion. And so once you understand that, you can begin the process of freeing yourself. Starting with understanding what the dogma is. Are we clear? Y'all got this? All right.
Thank you. Causing for station identification.
Charlie, you want me to clean it up? Clean it up, please?
Huh?
Clean it up, please?
Say, yeah, please. Appreciate it. I gotta make them a bigger easel, one that pulls these things without falling.
So Todd,
Yes.
that is one of the reasons why the Jesuit oath, the oath of the Jesuits is if they're Muslim, be Muslim. If they're Christian, be Christian.
Yes.
If they're Jews, be Jews.
Right.
But your loyalty is to the Vatican and the Pope.
Yes.
So whatever way you need to do, you need to cut your brother or sister's throat and COINTEL.
Yeah.
Whatever way you need to infiltrate, that's the Vatican oath.
Yeah.
But your loyalty.
And that's how they work. That's how they work it.
Exactly. We need to have that.
I would like to get started.
Yeah, that's how they work it.
Yeah.
That's how it's been working. You know, but until the people, and this is also what they talk about, like in your King Alfred plan, why they were saying it's so subtle. People looking at the so-called fiat, it's so subtle that even the bright amongst them will not be able to, extricate themselves out from under it. Mainly because their concepts are wrong. You see, they'll be thinking about the subject matter on the immediate tip. When the real deal is they need to understand that all these people are high priests. So you don't condemn what they know, you need to know what they know. Do you understand? Because what they know, they do not teach. What they know for themselves, they do not teach. But they do know the system of mind control for the masses, i.e. the counterfeit. And so you've got counterfeit law, color of office, color of authority for the masses. The rulers deal with jurisprudence, which is the science that treats a positive law. Not necessarily the morality of it, but the actual science of it, its principle. So the classifications of law, etc. The nature of it from a scientific mathematical methodology. The comparative uses of law. Therefore, if an issue comes before society or a court or tribunal, whereas there may be consistency in the type of claim or issue, those will be compared scientifically. to see what principle in law would apply, etc. There, thus, is jurisprudence. And law is subject under jurisprudence, are we clear? So it's not law and then jurisprudence is jurisprudence, which is the science that treats of positive law. Logically, if there's positive law, there's negative law. Therefore, you need to know the science of law. Therefore, you need to know the cosmological principles upon which the law is built. This is the reason why, when it comes to the principle of the common law, why it trumps the statutory code, because it's indicative of you having an association to the knowledge of your ancient forefathers. Like Drali said, go back to that state of mind of your ancient mothers and fathers. If you did, you'd know this stuff. You see the whole point? And so when you walk before the Magi and you walk into those tribunals, they're not courts, they're tribunals, they can kind of smell you and tell what you know anyway, the way the energy you even carry. And when you start, talking that black and white stuff, they already know that you sleep. They already know your food. If you start debating your beliefs, they already know your food. And will, according to how they feel, whether they, the wife fed their dog this morning, or how they feel. You understand? Because they're magi. And so the point that I'm making is don't underestimate them and don't take it that because they're not discussing these things with you, that they're not operating on these principles, because they absolutely are. Their position is that if our people can run around day after day doing push carts, spending all kinds of finance, talking about what Allah is, what Allah is not, when Prophet Muhammad came, when he left, when Jesus came, what he's going to do, how many sandwiches he made on Tuesday, the Bible and the moon chart of the Mayan calendar says it's going to end next week, give all your stuff away, meet us down on 5th and 25th and type stuff, then you certainly should know the fundamental rules of civilization. And so those who don't are held in contempt, and they consider you food. Do you understand? That's why they say they consider people who don't use their intelligence as steaks on the table for the elite. They do, and they abuse you with no conscience whatsoever. That's why the King Alpha plan to talk about genocide and slavery, and that no moral or religious consideration is taken. Why? Any human being or people that do not use their intelligence to solve the problems of the planet are no better than the beasts of the field and are treated accordingly. So keep this in mind also, that when you're dealing with them, though they may be callously immoral in many ways, everything that they say is not necessarily wrong, because that principle is true. This is why they say ignorance of the law is no excuse. They're really telling you that because it is no excuse. Why? Because the law begins with you. And if you don't know yourself, logically, you don't know your mothers and your fathers from whom the law comes that sets up civilization on the planet Earth. That's called the common law. And if you didn't know that, you should know it now. And their position is, if you don't know the common law, then they got a program for you. Because the rule is, man, know thyself. And so, this is also why in chapter 48, where the prophet talks about the Moors' nationality was taken away from them because they honored not the principles of their mothers and fathers. So now, when you walk before them, keep in mind, they're testing you to see if you have a connection to the principles of your ancient mothers and fathers, because it will display in both your language and how you act with your thinking, your philosophy, you see? And so once you understand that, you understand the philosophy of law, or jurisprudence. That's why the jury of your own peers, you see? See how that works? Because it's based in divine law. But you're supposed to know that already. Because they're not going to tell you that. They're going to feed on you until you raise up.
Taj, wouldn't that be a violation of jury of our peers when our peers are so asleep because they're not coming from our mothers and our father ancient history? How could that be? That's in violation of the Constitution of the Republic, because you have my peers.
You're correct now. Now, when one comes in propria persona, now listen to what you're saying, and it's apropos. How did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans?
By teaching them to be themselves.
What is being yourself in law?
Coming back to your heritage. Coming back to our heritage or
Now, I can relate to what you're saying, but that's not the answer.
okay.
It's in one's own proper person,
One part.
in propria persona. That was your answer. The other answer you gave would be satisfactory with us. In
But
law,
not in that form.
in law, you failed.
Okay.
See, law specific. This is what it is. The fundamentals or rule of interchange between men and nations is man, know thyself. Honor your mothers and your fathers because they put their trust in those names and the principles that were laid down from which the laws of civilization come. If you're, when I say you, I'm talking to me too, going to be telling people about gods and demons and everything, certainly you must know the rules on the planet. Because if you don't know the rules on the planet, don't talk about no gods that you've never seen. We do that, don't we? Matter of fact, we got a whole culture that covers that whole area day in, day out. And we fund a lot of buildings from different versions of whatever version we want to talk about, and fund them, give them our time, finance, etc. Don't they do that? Right? Now, and then can't tell you the rules of civilization? That's called contempt. That's dishonor. And thus you're dishonoring your mothers and your fathers, and so your days are cut short. So we call that racism, don't we? Wrong again.
Right, because I'm going to say, because we can't
No, I'm
use
just
that
saying, wrong again. No, I'm removing the emotions.
Yeah, you
I'm
can't use that
removing
in
the
court.
emotions that we have a tendency to lean on.
Right.
You know, jump into let's feel sorry for ourselves type thing. Which means we're part guilty for this. We're not totally innocent in our subjugation. That's why Drew Ali said he's traveled the South, and the life that we've lived, the life that we live, shameful for everyone who lives the life, which means we're living a life, a dead culture that's contrary to both truth, contrary to the divine way, suffering the consequence and accusing the world of racism when actually we're out of order. Yes, they're taking advantage of us, yes. And yes, they promoted the miseducation. Do you understand? But if we're running around claiming our special relationship with Allah, Jesus, God, Muhammad, etc., then we better know what we're talking about. Or don't say it. You know, don't say you're a surgeon and come out with rusty butter knives. It's just that. Because it's contempt as soon as you do it. Yeah, but I thought I was a surgeon, and at least they're knives. Yeah, but in law, this doesn't count. But they're my grandma's knives. We saved them. Don't go cutting on people. You know, opinion, goodwill doesn't make law. Facts make law. The people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, not they feel as though they want to feel as though. And in law, you're dismissed. And if you continue to talk, then you're in contempt. You see, because you're required to know these rules. You're the direct descendants of the founders of civilization. Then this is why the prophet said, how dare you stoop to the level of the beast? You see? And so when you look at all the prophets, whether Isa, Moses, Muhammad, etc., the Buddha, any of the Buddhas, because many of them were Buddhists too. Confucius, all of them in their principle is bringing people back to the law, aren't they? And what do people do? Based on the priesthood, always start worshiping the prophets rather than carrying out the law. That's where your problem is. Not only that, they don't even know law. Because they think it's some separate subject matter. You see the problem? Then they adopt the secularisms that the priesthood set up, create a lot of problems by their own hand, suffer the consequences, then want to blame the devil, not knowing that the priesthood made the devil up. This is the reason why they never feel guilty doing stuff to people. Because they don't believe that stuff themselves. Why? Because they made it. You know, it's just like, you know, somebody making up Santa Claus and got all the children fooled, and all the children write letters and send $2 to gift to Santa Claus. And then some of them want to sue Santa Claus because they didn't get the bike.
You need to stop.
No, I'm serious. It's not unlike what they've done with dogma in the name of religion. And we just need to grow up and understand that the problems of the planet are related to this. They absolutely are. You know, so when the people think about the problems of the planet, including, you know, the arsenals of the world, they don't know that the church is the biggest stockholder in the arsenals of the world. The masses don't know that. Politics know that. Anybody that does research knows that. But yet the same people, you understand, go through this ritual like they want to pray for the wounded soldiers. They want to pray for the world to end. And the wars to end and everything, and they're profiting from it. See the point? The other thing that we want to talk about are to demonstrate to you the variable jurisdictions, the opposites of the feudal and the democracy system. We were talking about it in Harlem, and we didn't get a chance to complete. But I want to mention that to you. But you need to be conscious of the opposites.
Taj,
Yes,
I got a question.
go ahead.
So when our mother over there, sister, I'm gonna call my mother because she's been teaching me too. The sister posed a question: how do we know when the Magi changes the form? Because I remember you stating this previous, when they go take a lunch break or check out and come back,
Yes.
right? But
You
it's
better
still
reenter
it's,
your position. This is the point that I'm making. This is really the point that I'm making, cutting to the chase. Reestablish your status and reestablish the original issue for the record. Because he's just changed the venue.
Right. When he goes out, he changes the venue.
Yeah.
But my position is still about jurisdiction of nationality. Even if they try to do a 52 fake
Now,
out like
see what you just said? What I just said? What did you just say? Affirming just what I said to you.
Right.
But you need to recognize that's what you just did. Failure to do that.
Right. Every time they
You
change
think
that,
they're coming on the subject matter just as it was, as it stood, as it was laid? No.
and that's what you just talking about, reversal.
That's what I'm talking about. They're changing the venue. You know, it's like changing rules without changing rules.
Right. You've mentioned that before, but it still comes back to my position as
Yeah.
jurisdiction of
And so
nationality.
state it. That's what I'm saying.
You have no jurisdiction over me. So whatever.
You don't argue that.
I don't understand that because
No,
that's the emotional
you state the status.
part. Right.
The status already sets for the record that they have no jurisdiction. You don't argue, say, well, you have no jurisdiction. You don't argue that.
Right.
You state the status. The status sets that they don't have jurisdiction. Do you understand? In other words, it's sort of like you don't argue that you can blow the horn. You pull the horn out. Because when you're arguing that you can blow the horn, it kind of comes off like naive.
Right.
It's sort of like people who argue sovereignty when they state nationality. You don't have to argue sovereignty unless your concepts are kind of skewed, or you went and copied something down CBS and you're trying to enforce something that you're not clear on. Because if you're talking nationality, you're talking sovereignty.
Right.
Do you understand? If you're talking citizenship, you're talking nationality. It's the subtlety of your awareness. It's sort of like they know, not necessarily that they know, they can assume that from your language, whether or not you went down CBS and copied something, or whether you really studied what you're giving them, and it's a part of you, just by how you're talking. You know, just like an adult doesn't get up and start saying, well, Judge, what I wanted to let you know is, you know, because A, B, C, D, E, F, G. See, because after the G comes the H. You know you're naive. You don't try to prove that you know the alphabet. You just simply start using the language. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And they can sense it. Just like you can sense whether somebody knows what they're talking about based on the choice of their words. Whether they don't have to say things exactly the same, but the spirit of what they say has to be there, and it has to be clear. And when it's not, they want to test you. Why? Because Susie goes to college at your expense. They got that second house in the Poconos at your expense. They get kickbacks from the Queen of England for how much they robbed you for the Inquisition revenue services through the IRS, which is really belongs to the Popes of Rome. Has nothing to do with the federal government of the United States. And logically, however you respond, however your language responds, indicates what do you know about this stuff. You see the point? What they do or what they don't do is what they do or they don't do. But the issue is, what do you do? Meaning, if they smack you, how do you respond? If they come at you with any fraud, how do you respond? What is your language? What do you know about them? You see the point? So you don't argue jurisdiction, you put a quo warranto when it's supposed to be in before you went to the court. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You don't argue with them with their name. You've done the research before you went in there and find out what their name and their bond number is, and you would have the record that they didn't display it, and you wouldn't be talking the case, you'd be asking them, you didn't answer the writ. What's up? You know how you're going to go into subject matter when status is not set? Not just yours, but also his. You don't argue with them, you hold them to the law that they're bound already to. So therefore you must know the Constitution, their oath, and that once that jurisdiction is challenged, they must answer. You don't start debating with them or let them get in no shouting match with them to prove that they ain't got jurisdiction. They don't. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So you're saying that they still have to produce
Your proof is on them. When they can make you feel though you got to prove something, they know that you don't understand that. That's the point. When they can throw the ball in your court and you start acting like you have an obligation when they have not met theirs, then they're going to throw another one in your court. Just like when Sister Roz was saying, like when they talk about you can put a motion in for dismissal. They open the window half opened and half closed. Islam.
No, I didn't want to cut you off, but just to be clear, like a lot of the times, they won't even really argue with you. They'll just throw something out there like, well, I do have subject matter jurisdiction. That's all they'll say. That may be true. It's not really, still don't have territorial and persona. So if they say, well, we have subject matter jurisdiction, at that point, you're supposed to reinforce the fact that they don't have territorial or persona, because most of the times they won't even talk that. They'll just challenge you like that and say, I got subject matter jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But they'll never really claim to have persona or territorial. They'll act like it, but they won't say that on the record, for the most part. But they will say, I have subject matter jurisdiction.
But
Yeah, but then you ask them, then for the record, show cause and show the subject.
Right.
Because now you're talking about class of law.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
But they never answered the writ, and they never.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, your response would be, because subject matter jurisdiction is class of law. It's jurisprudence that we just talked about. So, you know, it's the class of law. So you say, oh, good. Thank you. Enter into the record the class of law you're dealing with. Because that's the show cause. That's the nature of the charge.
They ain't got no charge for real.
No, the deal. No. In other words, it's if you knew what subject matter jurisdiction is, you would recognize what questions to ask. They would come up. It wouldn't necessarily be a question that you would ask ordinarily, but you recognize because you talk about classification of law. So if you say subject matter jurisdiction, he's telling absolutely the truth. But he didn't tell you what subject.
And that's another way.
He's playing you. They're seeing, this is what I'm talking about, they're seeing if you know what you're talking about. While in fact, your argument is valid. When he makes a statement like that, he opens himself up to secondary questions. But if you don't know what to ask, you kind of throw it off. And then you probably ask something else or get belligerent. Sometimes you got to, but you got to get belligerent with law. You don't get belligerent with guessing. Because subject matter jurisdiction can be questioned at any time, before, during, or after an issue or case, even if somebody's in jail.
Wouldn't that magistrate be in violation because he's practicing law from the bench?
Of course, but you could say that. You could ask when he starts, he said he has subject matter jurisdiction.
Right.
Oh, I have no problem.
Right.
I have no problem with that. Then enter into the affirmation of jurisdiction for the prosecutor. Then look around for the prosecutor.
Right. The prosecutor.
No, I'm just saying, I'm showing you when they make statements, they're opening up doors. And then if you don't know, you're closing it.
Because they never gave you a security bond.
You need to study. That's what I'm saying. You need to study. You understand, when you're walking into those tribunals, they're auction blocks. They're offering to auction you lest you're willing to speak as a free man and start acting like you know. Constitution has 7 articles, 10 bills of rights, right?
Yes,
Constitution, the organic. They say organic, right?
yes.
What is an organ? An organ in the Constitution is related to an organ in the body. The Constitution is the makeup of man. Therefore, it's in harmony with nature. 7 chakras and the hands of man, the amanuensis master, descriptor. 10 Bill of Rights comprises the organic Constitution. It's based on divine law. Since it came from your forefathers, you're supposed to already know that. You see? So now when he comes like that with the issue of subject matter jurisdiction, he certainly has subject matter jurisdiction, whatever he happens to be thinking about or talking to. That's why he's sitting there. So now you said, oh, good. I'm glad you cleared that up. Right? So enter into the record the nature of the claim of the class of law that you're dealing with. Is it admiralty? Is it bottomry? Is it foreign to the Constitution? Is it equity? Is it contract? Is it estate? Name the class of law for the record. Because he just set himself up as soon as he said that. See, he either set you up or he set himself up. Mm-hmm. He set himself up if you know. He set you up if you don't. You get the point? And even though we keep it simple, that's why we put it like in the MSTFA degrees, we just keep it simple. It can get thick, but people have a tendency to have a short attention span. So keep it simple, because they start getting stupid. Keep it simple. Jurisdiction can be challenged at any time. Personal jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction. So territorial, logically, then they'd have to be Americans, wouldn't they? So they're running around saying America the country type thing, and you let them get away with that. That's a spurious argument, because there's no such thing. So what they're talking about is the subject matter of a fiction. It's still a subject matter, isn't it? And so you set your status, make it distinct that you're the natural living being distinguished from any corporate entity that they may present. And then when he makes any statement to you, you start looking around and he's going to ask you what he's looking for. I'm looking for the prosecutor to make the case, but are you the prosecutor and the judge? Isn't that a conflict of interest? See, you can say that before you say practicing law from the bench. Because you just, in evidence, for the record, where's the prosecutor? Because I want to challenge the jurisdiction. See, you ain't challenging him. See, another trick is this. When you challenge the jurisdiction of the court, if you're challenging the judge, it's not who you should be challenging. You should be challenging the prosecutor. Because the prosecutor represents the accuser. or the accuser. So the judge is a neutral party. Now that you challenge the jurisdiction via the prosecutor, now the judge has to determine whether his court can hear what this claim is. But most people challenge the judge's jurisdiction. Although you have that right, you got to go around it and get to him. Because you don't challenge the judge's jurisdiction, you challenge the prosecution of the state. You see? Now, meanwhile, 9 times out of 10, ain't no prosecutor sitting there, because the judge talking trash. Now, you say, for the record, then you say, feels like you're trying to hurt me? You're trying to tell me that you're going to do something to me for exercising the right that you're bound by law to protect, because I have right here your sworn oath. This is Exhibit 3. Oh, and I have right here your indemnity bond number with the resolution of this corporation that you're working for. Do you have a Dun & Bradstreet number so I can add to this?
Dun & Bradstreet number?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you're just being calm. You're not really, you don't battle with them because you already know what the rules are. See, you're not even talking into the subject matter. You're not arguing that you have 5 tickets. You understand what I'm saying to you? Yes. You're making sure that the status and the jurisdiction is set up by not arguing the jurisdiction, talking about the jurisdiction that makes it clear that he doesn't have the jurisdiction, because you understand what jurisdiction is. Do you understand where I'm coming from? If you understand what jurisdiction is, talk about the jurisdiction and thus challenging it. Because you already know that they're trying to counter people because people paint them in a corner. So they're doing arbitrary stuff. So talk to them on the subject without getting into the subject, based on what they say to you. Right? Because the jurisdiction must be proven by the accusing party. Now the judge practicing law from the bench is now acting as an accuser. That's why you ask for the prosecutor first, and then when you know he ain't around, then you look at the prosecutor. Come down and testify. Swear in. With record. Now you got him. In other words, you don't have to always feed into how they're coming at you. But make sure you say it for the record. You see? Yes. So once you understand what their obligations are, your protocols come naturally. You don't have to say things exactly like we say it. Even when we put like affidavits on sites and stuff, we do those as examples for people who haven't had the opportunity to study as a stopgap measure. But once they study, they can modify them and make their own. Cut and paste. But the principles must be there. When they start seeing that you don't understand the distinction between feudal and allodial thinking, and you start mixing them, they start recognizing that you're neutralizing your argument. You know what I mean? Like if you start talking about the obligations of the officers of the court, and then you mix in black and white stuff, they already know you're dead. Then your argument's dead. You understand? If you don't challenge the dispensation of the transmitting utility that you may have on the paper, and they ask for a discovery, you know, that piece of paper you're reading from making claims against me, I don't have it in front of me. How come I don't have it? I entered discovery. Can't defend something I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about. How can I prepare a defense when you're reading claims and charges and things like that on some instrument that that's not related to me? Let me see. You can do that. And if you don't know you can do that, then we have a problem. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And then, if it's a claim, if they say there's a state's claim, well, the state says this, the state says that, let them get their stuff off and start talking, right? Well, the state never talked to me. According to the law, which state you talking about? Him, she, or what? Who? State's a foreign, private, for-profit corporate entity created 1947, 1933. It wasn't even sanctioned by the Constitution. Doesn't it say state of? You can't talk. I didn't injure Santa Claus and I didn't injure him. Her, whatever his gender is. Are you speaking for him? Are you the accuser then? Get down and testify. It's that simple. And you just disrobed them. In other words, don't be so tempted to always argue the specificity of the law, but recognizing what the law is, you can formulate protocols on your feet. You know, it's like type of thing. That type of stuff. You know, like weave, last week you weave like this, weave like that. In other words, you gotta be thinking on your feet. You think on your feet by knowing what their obligations are. They're always trying to put obligations on you, but if you know what their obligations are, you let them get their stuff off, then paint them. You know, let them stick their face out and then put paint on it. Same way they're doing you. But you do that by knowing what their obligations are. So these magistrates often play the role of both prosecutor and judge and are never challenged with it. That's the major thing. When they start talking trash on the bench, you know, say, excuse me, I didn't, and you start looking around like this. You know, what you looking for? Look for the prosecutor, that's what I'm looking for. Now if you're the prosecutor, and you're accusing me, then come down from the bench and swear in. For the record. Isn't that simple? Yes. Isn't that simple? In other words, you don't even have to argue you're practicing law from the bench. That says he's practicing law from the bench. You see? In other words, demonstrate that you understand this. And not necessarily just making the statements as they would be properly made all the time. You know, that would be proper, but when you come like that, they know that you understand. They know you comprehend. You know what their obligations are, right? Or they start reading from script. And we have here 2 charges. You had your sneaks tied together on Thursday. One sneak was a Nike and the other was Adidas. Now, that's $50 fine plus court support. You know, you don't start arguing with the sneaks. So, you've got all that stuff in front of you. I haven't seen any of that stuff. I have no idea what you're talking about. Discovery, that's all I want. So if you're asking for discovery, that means the present case can't continue. You don't have to say, you know, a continuance or dismiss. It can't continue. Why? Because he's talking trash and you don't have it in front of you. You don't. How do you defend yourself from some accusations you don't see? And then, let me see that. Discovery. And how come you have that and the prosecutor didn't give it to me? And how come you're speaking for the prosecutor? I mean, I don't understand this. What you should be doing is dismissing this, shouldn't you? Because he should. In other words, now you give him a window. Now, if he wants to get ignorant, then you say, apparently, all due process is being violated. I stand mute because you're trying to injure me, and you're using that office for personal, private, clan activity. I think somebody should call the sheriff. This is a crime scene. For the record. Can I call the sheriff? Are you going to injure me for exercising my rights? As a matter of fact, you're the judge. You're supposed to make sure this stuff is not going on. But since apparently you're not, you're participating in it, we need to call the sheriff. Everything stopped. It's a crime scene. Now, would you think to do that?
No.
Would you?
No.
However, that's what you should be thinking.
Yeah.
Meaning that you have a lot of other options that we haven't spoken of. We'll tell you certain protocols, but understand when you understand the principles, you would automatically be thinking other protocols. Are we clear?
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions in that area? Everybody understand that? That principle? All right. So when they're practicing law from the bench, you don't have to argue that they're practicing law from the bench. Look for the prosecutor and say, how come you hitting me and then threatening me? And watch them say, no, I'm not threatening you. Why are you talking like that? You trying to hurt me? No, well, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just trying to get you to plead. Yes, you are. For the record, you are.
Trying to get me to plead. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you going to plead when the charge is not clear? The nature of the charge is not clear. You don't have discovery. They're making claims and you had no opportunity to prepare a defense against his papers that he's reading from that you don't have. And then, of course, as soon as you see it, you're going to see it's all cat. Uh-oh, what? That's not me. You know that's not me. Stop. You understand what I'm saying?
Correct. So when you go to the arraignment,
Dr. Nylon.
Sorry.
But
so like when you go to the arraignment and then at the arraignment, you're trying to put together whatever the charges may be that you have to have the actual trial.
yes,
So at that point in time, when we're saying, when we're at the arraignment, and we're saying, well, basically, we don't have no subject matter, you have jurisdiction over the subject matter, and then they're saying, well, such and such is saying you did such and such, and you say, well.
that's an accusation unsubstantiated.
Right, but they continue on, so you're trying to get them to say, well, if you're such and such, then present yourself, because I want to see the party that is accusing me.
Yeah. Not just that, I want to see the sworn affidavit that's attached to the warrant that moved this court.
Even if that's not produced, it's still,
No, listen. No, listen. What he said, they'll pull that type of stuff. And then you say, oh, no problem. Discovery. I want to see the sworn affidavit that's attached to the Fourth Amendment warrant signed by a competent judge that moved this court, because that's what moves the court. And if he doesn't have that, then he has no business talking to you about whether anything. In other words, you don't have to get into subject matter. You don't necessarily have to challenge subject matter jurisdiction. You say, well, he's talking trash, right? Discovery. Let me see the sworn affidavit, not just questioning the accuser, question the sworn affidavit which was necessary to make the claim. Because there had to be a deposition that's attached to the warrant that creates the summons. Because that's the accuser's instrument that's used upon which the court decides to make a move, to call you. You see what I'm saying?
So then at that time,
Yeah.
that's when I started looking for the prosecutor.
Exactly.
And then I decided the fact that, are you the prosecutor? And if he's not, and if you are come down to swear, then
That's right.
that's where it's supposed to end.
Right, exactly, because you just caught them.
Right.
You know, but you got to argue with them because they're going to try to loud you, get you off the cuff, etc.
Gotcha.
But it's just being cool, already knowing what their obligations are. Already know that when they start making claims that they're going to try to dance around and get you to talking about the subject matter, which is the admission to jurisdiction. Because you must set the status for both you and him. And status is not necessarily always having to argue, proving that you're Moorish American. That's already on your records. You say, I'm, natural person, am I proper person, and not pro se. I'm here appearing special and not generally to clear up this matter with this misrepresentation before this tribunal that has not been established as court yet. I don't know. You look like Europeans to me. So first, you're clearly not Americans. So that's number one. So can I see your court warrant? You can come like that. Islam.
So, what's this thing that you said, like, to put the court in action, it has to be sworn affidavit?
All right, this is the principle.
No, I have a question. These attorneys have this thing they call a verification. That's not.
Well, the verification, that would be it.
Is that a sworn
They're
affidavit?
implying without without, how to say, implying without producing, and you didn't challenge their
That's what I'm
claim.
saying, yeah. They always, but
Because to
see,
verify,
but
yeah.
see, what we've been seeing is that the court is allowing this verification without.
All right. Now,
That makes the court part of the fraud.
of course they are. That's why you gotta come at them like that. In other words, sometimes you have to dance with them. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so
But
you let the
that's-
judge,
But that's a point of challenge right there.
yeah, you let them talk trash first. Look, and what when the judge talks a little bit of trash, let them get it off. Then you ask them, you know, for the prosecutor, you're trying to hurt me. How come what you're saying to me, these charges, is not made by the prosecutor? Are you prosecuting from the bench? You ain't saying you're practicing law from the bench. You prosecute me from the bench? You're trying to hurt me? I thought, now according to the law, what you're supposed to do is see that all parties inform all other parties of their claims in accord with due process, and that the accuser presents his case and presents the sworn affidavit for the record, if discovery to me, for what claims and the nature of the cause before the court, so I can prepare a defense. I haven't had none of that. Not only that, you're prosecuting as if you're a jury and the prosecutor. Are you the judge? If you are, state it for the record. You're the prosecutor, state it for the record, so I know which one you, because I don't know who I'm talking to. And he said, you trying to hurt me? Watch him start saying, no, we're not trying to, we're just trying to do, yes you are. Can you state your name for the record, your full name, and your bond number, your indemnity bond number? I noticed that when I walked in here, I didn't see, for warrant, I didn't see any certification for the activity of this court. There was no warrant posted. That has to be posted. No, I didn't see a constitution. I didn't see anything. As a matter of fact, I've been asking you, you won't even tell me your name. Isn't that a violation of law?
Yes.
You're a public servant.
At what point you just say, okay, well, I'm out of here then?
You can say, but the deal, you want to get stuff on the record.
Right, okay.
See, the major thing that you want to do with them, if you're there at all, meaning that you're already wasting your time, which means they're already taking up your time. So use the time for them to say things that can be used against them in any future action, as well as what makes the present issue dismissible or reversible, even if they're trying to, because most of the time, 99.9% of the time, they're acting in color. You already know that. And they're administrative anyway, so you already know they're in color. But allow them to prove they're in color. You know.
For the record.
Yeah, for the record. Islam says.
Islam. But if it's not a court of record, I mean.
That's why you ask questions. Is this a court of record? Like stuff like that.
Yes.
Back to the point. Knowing what their obligations are, hold them to their obligations. Because the court of record, logically, already has the sworn affidavit, and that's going to be produced to you, and you ain't going to have it anyway, right? So the judge's obligation as a judge right now is to dismiss it already. Because they're going into what? Making a charge. How can there be a charge when there's no sworn affidavit attached to a Fourth Amendment warrant by which the court was moved in the first place? Because that's what causes it to move. The same thing with a mortgage. They have to have a claim of an owner, or somebody has a claim of interest, right? They introduce a sworn statement saying that they are the owner, blah, blah, blah. Entered into the court examines it and decides whether or not they want to issue a summons or claim against the opposite party or the other claiming party. And then that instrument has to be given to the person who the change or the charge is made against, so they can prepare a defense or rebuttal. There's no daggone trial. There can't be a trial. And an arraignment is essentially a proceeding where all that stuff is supposed to be done. Exchanging of credentials, mine for yours type thing. Here's my nationality card. Where's yours? There's your claim. Here's my rebuttal. Well, give me the discovery. I haven't received discovery. So now let's set a date. Now that we got all these things in place, that's how it works. They bypass that because they've assumed jurisdiction. made an adjudication and start talking trash. But if you know that, you don't get caught up emotionally, you let them get a little bit of their stuff off, because their stuff already kills the case, even in their venue. Yeah, let them talk a little bit, and then snap the trap. Like you put the cheese in the, you like mice? Yeah. Cheese, they like cheese twist too. And then trap. The mouse coming across the floor, you don't go chase them like this. Let them go get in the trap, let them go. Start biting on the cheese and, oh man, and you let them get it. See, because they're operating under color, they're operating under color, so you're not looking for them not to operate under color, or that you're talking to them and then they're going to stop, because this is, they're against the wall. This represents that this stuff is over. They're going to have to start firing people. So they're going to push you to the wall. They're going to box you until you either get out of the ring or they get out of the ring. So knowing that's what they want to do, let them get their stuff off, get it for the record. You know what I mean? Have witnesses and stuff like that, and get them now or later.
Maximum law, he who leaves the battlefield first loses. That's right.
Yeah.
He who leaves the battlefield first loses.
Because they're not dealing with what? They're not dealing with jurisprudence. They're dealing with color of law. They're dealing with bottomry. Knowing they are, if you already know they are, let them paint it. Let them do their thing. They're doing it anyway. See, they're looking for you to get belligerent so they can try to imply that you're being contemptuous. You understand? So let them just calm, let them get the little stuff on them. Just court of record, prosecutor type, you got them right there. So if they made a decision by their own color rules, it's dismissible. Now you got to sue for them because they're taking up your time. Now you give them a loyal court schedule.
Islam. I had a case, the situation was my tags expired, their tags expired, and policeman stopped me and got my car towed. And he actually called the tow company, and my sisters were a witness, and I let him know that I can tow my own car, my own vehicle, conveyance. I asked him for his delegation authority. He said I am the authority, blah, 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 blah. So I sent the court warrant tow and everything. Came in suit and tie, brothers. Came in suit and tie, noble. Not no jeans, looking like Ray. And I had two of my support members here. And I just went up gently. Morning, Your Honor. Afternoon. And no fear or nothing. And instead of dismissing, they postponed it. And so I think I told you about that. But what it did, we had a group meeting, and I said, but what it did was give us another opportunity to ammo up. So now what I did, I sent another court warrant. This time I put the stamp, thumbprint, signed through, date. Yeah. And I put that through, and a allodial cost schedule, and I put that in gold eagle points. Yeah. And also the discovery thing. Yeah. I put discovery, but I asked the question: why wasn't the case dismissed when the accuser / corporate agent / public servant and his name? I even got the guy's license plate number. That's how agent I was. And
that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and so I put those questions, and but it was more addressed to the accuser, not to the judge. It was questions that I was asking regarding the accuser, because it's their word against mine, and the fact that even the Magi said out loud that I was charged or accused of the same citation twice. That's double jeopardy. Yeah. So I put that in there. So June the 5th is going to be the next rendezvous.
And they get another bill.
And so the allodial cause came up to, I put I put $10,000 for a violation of my Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Yeah.
$10,000 for violation of my indigenous rights.
Yeah.
God, I put so much. I put $5,000 court costs.
Breach of oath.
Oh, I didn't put that. But yeah. Yeah, I didn't put that. But you know, I already sent that, and so I still have enough time to send more documents. But again, one of the members of the group in you know, Baltimore territory, they got their case dismissed, wham, bam, shebang, boom. However, this is a good exercise project for me. So this is a good project.
Yeah.
Because even right now, I'm already formulating coming in there. I mean, I'm already in theater.
Yeah.
So I'm going up there, Perry Mason, but melanated.
That's right.
I'm a melanated Perry Mason.
That's right.
Ironside.
It's
You know?
supposed to be.
Yeah, so this is just something that like you said, they're going to end up throwing it out. They're going to dismiss it. But just for us in the Baltimore territory, in our particular group, the community law group, it's a good exercise for us in protocol.
Yes.
What documents go first, what document goes second, what document goes third, the reaction. Then we talked about it afterwards.
You
And
definitely want to go for your bond.
they get very intimidated when you have support.
You definitely go after their bond.
That is, I'm gonna have to get with you on that one now.
Definitely go after it. Now, keep this in mind. Now, I'll write this down for those who may not know this. Every public servant, everyone that's operating in a public servant position must have a charter. That's the quo warranto, to do business in North America. So look at charter and quo warranto related. And with that comes the bond, are we clear? The indemnity surety bond goes with that. It's not.
You said they must have a charter.
Their charter is their license to do business.
The charter and...
Think charter, no, think this.
Yeah.
Charter, quo warranto, related.
Yeah.
Charter, license, related. It's like they ask you for a license. You're just, when you're saying quo warranto, you're asking them for their license.
Right.
When you're saying delegation of authority order, you're asking them for their license. When you say bond, you're asking them for their insurance. When they ask you for license and insurance, when you ask for warranto and bond, you're asking the same thing officially. They're required, you're not. They're public servants, you're not a government employee.
All elected officials.
It applies to them. What they've been doing is converting your rights into crimes and racketeering off of it. So the deal of it is, the very fact that you're even there and that they're even talking to you on that degree is a violation of law. But again, when they see that you're not going after their bond, etc., and you're not asking for a quo warranty, that's immediately lets them know that you don't know the rules. You may be looking at some other things, but the first thing they know that you ain't asking them for their license and insurance, while they ask you for your license and insurance, they know that you don't understand what a public servant is. So they've changed places with you. Go ahead.
Now, my vessel has been, because I did put in the document that it was an illegal seizure against my Fourth Amendment rights, and also
Private property, yeah.
Yeah, private property, and but it has been in a auto pound since last year.
You charge them too.
So
You charge them for every day. What does rental cost? If you was renting a car,
I charge $2,000 per day.
yes.
That's what I did.
And you
$2,000
charge
per
them
day.
with grand theft. And you charge them with grand theft.
But what do I do? What is the? I mean, affidavit of fact. But what do I put?
That's RICO, racketeering, breach of oath. You know, it's a violation of confiscation of private property used for public use, right? Against your will, also other suits It's called treble damages. Treble, because they deprived your family. Your dog wanted to go to the movies, he can't go to the movies no more. He been really raising it, he broke the chain in the yard.
Which is a tort.
Yes, it's a tort. Yes, Islam. Islam. You have to send out an invoice every 30 days. Just like they do you. Send out an invoice every 30 days for 90 days, and then call me. Yeah. After you get 90 days worth, call me.
Now, one of the things is
You hear what he said?
Yes, every 30
Say it,
days.
repeat it.
Send an invoice out every 30 days.
Why?
Because it's just like they
No,
will send-
why?
Because I'm building paper trail, but I'm also building a case.
What occurs after 90 days?
Default.
No, they're already in default. What occurs after 90 days?
Season change.
Okay.
Tell me. I'm not sure what you're looking for. See, like you said, 90 days, if he sent them an invoice 3 months, 30 days, that makes 90 days, 3 months, what occurs?
A new zodiac? What occurs?
Tell us.
Quarter.
What does that instrument come into? What does it then convert to?
A quarterly
Security.
bill.
Say again? It turns into a security.
All right. It turns into what?
It turns into security.
Yes.
Explain that, please.
It turns into a security.
It's now become something that we can address. Just call me after 90 days.
But you just say that because you're looking good at the door.
Time. Listen. Everybody got their mind on money. Money, it ain't real. It ain't what's going on.
Yeah.
What you're doing is putting yourself in a position to where you have leverage on them to make them conduct themselves in a better manner. After 90 days, you now have something that can be turned into a negotiable instrument that can be used against them to grab at their fiat. And when you go in their pocket, you get their attention. But if you start doing it every 30 days, they're going to realize that you understand what you're doing. And on day 90, when they get the third one, they're going to have a whole new attitude because now they know you're looking for somebody to come collect. Yes. 30 days, every 30 days for 90 days, you can call me. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Let's see why they make their meeting.
Now, what would you ask about the peanut butter sandwich, sister?
Adiba, he wants to know what you.
Oh, huh? Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Peanut butter sandwiches.
It's on. So, real quick, how many people you think, how many judges gonna stand up after 4 or 5 people got 90 days worth of invoices against them, going to their bond company to get satisfied? How long do you think they'll be sitting there being a judge? Now you see why they don't want to give us that. So the only thing you need to understand is the process. Because if you do the process properly, it becomes a tool. The administrative process or any of it becomes a tool. Exactly. You're selling yourself. Right.
When a brother or sister is injured, when a brother and sister is injured, and I know that, and I say to them, well, whatever the causes might be, I will write out my own loading schedule, my own default, my own pro morto, in conjunction with whomever the party may be. It's because you're injured in the nation. You're not just talking to this here brother, you're talking to everybody in this room. So I can also act in on whatever the brother over there.
Counsel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it was like anybody got a problem, everybody's supposed to be writing it.
Yeah, because counsel deals with the injuries to the people. That's what counsel is for. That's why they'll ask you counsel. They'll say you want counsel when they say you want counsel. They won't say you want counsel. It's fine, brother.
It's not. Just real quick, I experienced that when I went to court. After going through the motion with the judge, I asked the judge to, I asked him I stopped and said, excuse me, I asked a question. The judge was like, go ahead and ask your question. I said, is this being recorded? Yes, it's being recorded. Okay. Can you state your oath of office and your bond into the record?
Boy, she trying like she had exorcists. I ain't got to do nothing. Who you think you are? Okay, no problem. I understand. So, can I ask another question? While this is being recorded, I can get a copy of this proceeding, right? You can have CD, 8-track tape, I don't care what you want.
Hit the right button.
Okay, no problem.
Record.
You're in my jurisdiction. I said, okay, no problem, I beg to differ, but okay, that's what you think, okay, no problem. And she said what she had to say. Court's in recess, so I got up and left. Never came back.
She never came back.
Word, son.
They never called back or nothing.
She didn't establish.
They don't want
If jurisdiction is challenged, they must answer. It's not optional. You can still go out there.
Can be challenged even after case is closed.
Still,
It can still be challenged. Anytime.
Question.
Islam.
Okay, this is dealing with formatting. Software. I can create an invoice, like maybe from publisher or something, in boxes. Is there a difference between typing it in the box or frame?
Type it in the box, it ain't there.
So no frames or nothing, just tab over.
Leave your stuff open,
Okay, gotcha. I see.
because you're standing on law. Islam.
When they do that, it's almost like,
It's a blind offer.
yeah, and then they never sign the name, they got
The reason they don't, because they are liable for what? Inducement to fraud.
So that means when I get an invoice in them,
so I'm just gonna say, but that's basically saying, when they rubber stamp it, they're outside of the umbrella of their liability, their insurance right there.
The ultra-virus statutes,
They're right out there.
yeah. That's why you get their names. And you, as a matter of fact, you can get their names and you stamp it on there. If you have an instrument that they send you, and you go into some court, whoever's talking trash to you, ask their names, you say, oh, you forgot to put your name on this document that was imposed, put me here, I'll put your name on there.
Here goes an
Spell that.
example, Todd, if you want an example.
Also, another example, yes. Keep in mind, they'll send you mail like this with that red marker on there without a postmaster stamp that's been canceled out, right? If there's no postmaster stamp that has been canceled out, this is mail fraud.
Okay.
Particularly if it commands something from you, some performance or claims of debt, owing, and it comes like that, mail fraud.
How about it comes with the black postage stamp on it?
Because it must be canceled out by the post office. Good. If it's not, it doesn't have a canceled out stamp, it's a fraud.
wow.
Yes.
Now,
Final notice. Coming from the Honorable Lori Novak Donatelli. Yeah, working, doing business as the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, County of Chester, request for suspension of driving privilege for failure to respond to a citation or summons or pay fines and costs imposed. Fine costs $120. Trial requested $120. Submit check or money order to the above, and this almost looks, it doesn't look exactly stamped there either. Is that a signature or is it a stamp?
it's a stamp.
Then instructions, May the 2nd. That's a demand for finance, isn't it?
Okay. I sent the stamp, I sent the citation back, I stamped it, I basically stamped it, discharge per HCR 192, stamped it.
Yeah. And then on.
And then I wrote across it in red ink, no contract, refused for fraud, no dishonor to me,
Yeah.
and then, the thing that I got from you, and then the last thing was witness, I put the officer and the badge number.
There ain't no officer.
Police
I
man.
mean, the policy
The
enforcement.
accuser, yeah. The
He
insurance policy.
said he was an officer, and I, and,
Saying, no, you say insurance policy enforcer.
yeah, right,
Well, he works for an insurance company. That's why he asked you for insurance.
right.
He just told you his agent. Now it says Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus Michael E. Pugh Sr. And they wrote it in a small case. Now, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania can't versus your corporation can't versus a natural person. That's number one. Number two, according to the laws of the United States, to which any franchise corporate entity must be a creature, your right of traveling on the public highways, transport your property yourself, etc., is a natural and substantive right. It cannot be regulated or permitted by the state at will, etc., writ of error. That's just right back to them concerning this.
Writ of error.
Just that simple, writ of error. This aside from the other dismissal. So writ of error, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, corporate entity, then you look at the date when it was incorporated, right? And then you see Michael E. Pugh Sr. here, it's written in all small cases, so it's not even constructed in a straw. So a corporate entity cannot interface with a natural being. Now, second to that, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's corporate entity can't speak, can't injure, and you want them to show the hospital bill.
What was that last statement?
Record hospital bill.
Oh, hospital.
The doctor's bill, whatever injury, state injury, etc., can't be done. It's like arguing with Santa Claus. And if Lori Novak Donatelli is speaking for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which apparently she is, then you can ask her for pro warranto for both that corporate entity and for herself, because both must be a creature of the Constitution. Writ of error. Dismiss and then send her a bill with it. With that dismissal.
Hey, can we talk about the bills for a minute?
Because it ain't a bill.
No.
Statement of
Can we
account.
talk about our compensation, our allodial compensation?
Allodial compensation
Allodial compensation.
distinguished from a feudal.
All right, y'all, listen. This is what I'm doing. We need as many people as possible to be uniform in what they're doing, so that when they get added up, the math is easier. 10 1-ounce Golden Eagle coins for every hour that you are inveigled away from for every hour of time spent away from your family, your spiritual studies,
Divine spiritual.
divine spiritual studies.
Divine spiritual.
Divine spiritual studies. All right? That's what you charge them. If it takes you 5 hours to type a piece of paper up, that's 1 page long, that's what it took you.
10 1-ounce.
10 1-ounce Golden Eagle coins for every hour of time spent away from.
That's real money.
All right?
Now say 10 for each.
10 1-ounce Gold Eagle coins
It's an invoice.
hour. It's in our, you can see
It's
it.
in the invoice today.
For each hour of time spent away from your family, divine spiritual studies.
And away from your inalienable rights.
And it, you got to that good part yet.
Okay.
But everybody's looking different. It could all look different, but the dollar signs gotta look the same. And the dollar signs are coming out to be 10 1-ounce Golden Eagle coins. Slash, space slash, space, silver equivalent, space slash, fiat, federal reserve notes.
Well, you said.
That's how you do your invoices.
Equivalent gold,
No.
silver.
Slash space silver equivalent,
Say par value.
well, silver equivalent par value, space slash fiat federal reserve note. Alright? Now, any way you want to word it, as long as you got all three of them in there, that's fine. But don't put equivalent next to federal reserve notes. Because of nothing, I don't care if you stack nothing up to reach the sun, it still ain't gonna equal 1 grain of sand sitting down at the beach. So don't say equivalent in federal reserve notes, because there's no such thing. Silver equivalent, because there's an equivalent in silver to gold.
But see,
There's
That's
a
why I
silver
say gold.
equivalent in fiat
There's a
as
silver
well.
equivalent to gold. No, there's a silver equivalent to gold because silver's real.
I get that.
Fiat is never going to be real. It can never equate to anything except what they think it is.
It's a slave certificate.
right.
But what I'm saying is, what's the difference between putting gold, silver, and fiat versus gold and fiat?
Because the only two forms of currency acceptable in the constitutional form of government, republic, silver and gold.
No.
Period.
No,
Correction.
stamps.
Neither of them are currency.
Like money.
Currency is not money. You must say money, make sure that's clear. Now that's correct. Just the same way you must make the distinction that the fiat is not money, neither is currency money. Because the currency is based on the principle of machinery of electricity, of them doing what you call electronic bookkeeping. And so that the currency is equivalent to fiat. It is not equivalent to money. So you never, because if you say currency, then you just neutralize your argument, the same way as you would do with the fiat. So currency and fiat are both fiat.
So
Back
how
to
would
what
you
you
word
said.
it?
And gold and silver is.
In other words, that's money. It's sort of like, you know, it's sort of like once you start making this argument, which is law argument, they're going to start trying to counter your argument because you're beating them up. And so if they see that you call money currency, they already know that you have neutralized your argument.
Okay.
So remember, money is not currency. Currency is not money.
So how would you word that?
You'd always call it what it is.
No,
In
how
other words,
would you
it's just like Europeans, not Americans.
Yeah, but not.
They're not white people, don't call them that, and then you don't need to correct it.
We're talking about performance.
No, the principle I'm saying, that money is not, currency is not money, just like fiat is not money. But when you equate currency and money, that's like equating fiat and money. So if your argument is making that distinction between the feudal and the allodial value, because the substance, or what you would call specie, is gold and silver. When you say specie, you're saying money. You're not saying currency, you're not saying fiat, you're saying money. You're talking substance. Currency is not substance. That must be understood.
That's
So
understood.
you never equate it with money.
That's understood, but what is the formula? The
Formula
formula.
for what?
Oh.
The,
It would be grams,
The
weight,
allodial-
weights and measure according to 1792,
10, 1 ounce.
Coinage Act.
okay. This something.
You're trying to figure, a 1 ounce gold eagle coin is worth, what, $1,400, $1,500?
I know that.
It goes up and down. 14,
I
1500
got
right
that.
now.
No, what I'm saying is this. If, back to what we was talking about in the beginning, gold, then silver, then fiat. If fiat don't have a value, and I was asking you how we would do silver, now what's the formula? Now that we know fiat and currency, fiat can't be.
All right, okay, listen. Let me say this to y'all right quick, right? You heard this?
Right on the board.
Well, listen. Fiat is the only thing we know. Ain't nobody in here born before 1933, so nobody know nothing about no real money.
Okay.
All right.
Agree.
I got some real money right here. It's a 1 ounce piece of silver. If you ain't got no silver and no gold, you don't have no money.
Agree.
All right. The reality is that it's illegal to ask or demand for payment in any form or fashion. HJR 192, June 5th, 30 Public Law 7310. It's illegal. So that, what Taj just read, that he just got in the mail, they demanded payment of $120, that's illegal. It's a violation of public law. But you gotta know to tell them that.
That's why it's mail fraud.
So you gotta go, no, it's mail fraud because they didn't put a stamp on it.
Okay.
And they didn't put a stamp on it, they didn't put a stamp on it because if they put a stamp on it and the stamp gets canceled, now the postal unit's coming out.
Federal.
All right, so you got gold, you got silver. These two equal. These two have an equal because they're real. It takes more of this one to equal this, but it's still real. So they can do it.
Right.
This right here, just like and what Ty said with currency, they can't equal this. But you can't tell them that you won't take it. So you got to include it on the list. Or else you're breaking the law.
And you would say,
Just
if you make reference that you were willing to accept it, you would say,
Okay.
such and such in Federal Reserve notes in lieu of lawful money as per Article 1, Section 10.
Okay.
You got that?
We were asking.
You got it?
Repeat that.
In lieu of
Write it down.
So at the
lawful,
end of that, in lieu of.
and you say in lieu of lawful United States money as per Article 1, Section 10. And therefore, in other words, you're taking that as a token, and if they give you $1 million of it, you still ain't paid. They still owe you.
That's a cute pun.
And one of the things, like what he was saying, because some of our activities and everybody's not into this, but because of some of our activities that we've been doing away with some debt, that's the same argument that they have with us when they try to say, oh, you didn't pay. Oh yeah, we paid you. You know what I'm saying? Because they're trying, on the other foot, they try to tell us that we only take money. Like he go to court and they tell, what they tell you, what the judge tell you? He only wants, what? He said he only wanted a certain.
Yeah, he only took cash.
So he only took cash. So what he did right then is he violated the public law. You know, so it's a two-way street. You know, you just got to be standing in the right part of the stream.
But now here's why I'm asking y'all to do this, all right? Because only the government can enforce foreign venue and stuff. We have to be unified in our approaches to enable the government to be able to enforce our approach. When Todd is talking about being sound in principles, it needs to be some uniformity of the principles because the principles are the same, they don't change. Now the reason I'm charging 10 1-ounce Golden Eagle coins is because they make 1 ounce Golden Eagle coins. And I want at least 10 of them for bothering me.
Yeah.
Quick question.
But that's why you say, he says just say silver. I say gold or silver equivalent, because they make a 1/2 ounce Gold Eagle coin.
No, I don't want a 1/2 ounce.
I don't care. That's what they go. You can't tell them no. So yeah, you just say equivalent. You know what I mean? And they give you whatever they got in their pocket. They got 1/4 ounce Gold Eagle coins. I'll take whatever they hand out.
The only thing they made when the Constitution was last in effect and our government was still alive was 1 ounce Gold Eagle coins.
Okay, when you say government, could you clarify?
1861.
What government you talking about?
The United States Constitution was in full effect in 1861.
Before Senate died.
When you
Yeah.
said
Before
when
Senate
when you was like, the reason why I'm asking everybody to do this, because
That's Cynthia.
we're required
Cynthia.
somebody enforcement of,
Cynthia.
which government
Say
you
it
talking
again?
about? Our government or
Our
theirs?
government. Our government.
Did you say?
Our government.
Favorable date.
The Synodia,
Synodia.
What is that?
Y'all don't know what a Synodia was?
without day, it means without day.
Yeah,
That means when the Congress adjourned Synodia,
they kept it.
without day, that means they didn't schedule for another meeting, that means the government was dissolved. Lawfully, it was dissolved, which means it didn't exist after that.
Hasn't.
I bet you that word's not in the Black Law Dictionary, is it?
Hasn't.
Yeah.
Only a color, only a color.
Color of law came.
Only a color, only a color, something presuming or looking like.
And in the Masonic lodge is what they call refreshment. That's when,
Libation,
The-
refreshment,
the,
referred to?
nah, it means that the lodge is in refreshments, meaning that it's lunchtime for the bricklayers. It's at 12 noon. So when you're out for refreshment, in the lodge, that means that there's, Synadia. That means that there is a recession, that, you know, we have recess.
Right.
So Congress been in recess since then.
Means there's no, that means like say when you adjourn any corporate entity, any business, any formal meeting that's adjourned and the secretary does not appoint for the reconvening of the meeting at that meeting, for the record, at that time it is forever dead. Meaning that they must set a day for reconvening in order for it to lawfully continue. If a day is not set for the reconvening, whether you forget it or whether you did it deliberately, you have just dissolved that entity. You have done it, meaning that if you blew it, you blew it. It's done. That must be understood in government and in corporate activities. It's like if you have any kind of organization where the records are kept and the secretary does not, in the minutes, set a meeting for the next meeting, at that time, it's dead. Meaning if they come back together again, the legitimacy of the order as it was is dead. It
Yes.
can't be revived.
Yes, yes,
It means it doesn't exist.
yes.
So that's the same way as the Magi leaving, coming back, leaving again, coming back, leaving again, coming back.
It's signifying,
Reset.
yeah, recess, really. He had to pee, yeah, bull.
Okay.
Sometimes that's why they be like, meeting is adjourned.
Say it again?
That's why they be like, a meeting is adjourned.
When they adjourn a meeting, they have to set a day for the next meeting.
Oh. Okay,
That's what sine die means, without day.
Okay.
All right, so sine die
SINE.
means without day. That means they have not set for the record a readjournment to come back. Therefore, it is dead.
SINE. You got it? SINE.
That signifies the corporal.
The babysitter closed, you can't bring your children
Yeah,
back.
they gotta, reset.
And they just ask the official case and why we here against it.
Yeah, that's why
Where my juice?
I got water. Yeah,
why you don't think they do with the tricks.
will adjourn at such and such a time, strike you down, why we report back. Take what he says.
No.
If he doesn't do that, that's it. You're off the hook. Yeah, absolutely. But then that'll work to your advantage because you were there and never finished it, so.
And you don't necessarily
Thank you so much,
have
sir.
to swear in, you can affirm.
No, that's for them.
But see, like, they know, yeah, and that's back to what the brother was asking about verification. I don't know if you looked the word up, but you should probably look it up. Because it's probably a slight difference between verification of oath and affirmation. So you might want to just see etymologically what the difference is. That note. Because it just be little words like that, they make all the changes. Yeah, like, you gonna swear in today, or you gonna affirm today, it's a different situation. So, affirming and verifying, they might have two different attributes in law. So I would just look that up.
Hook me up, Brother Paul, because she just gave me some hot food.
Yeah. What you want me to do, Tom?
reading?
Here, leave that with them. Why you give me, I don't need that. All right, y'all, I don't know why he want me to put it do. All right, so check it out, y'all, listen, it's important. Remember when Taj says, fundamentals and understanding it, overstanding it, what's gonna happen is, you just say you don't really see it yet, all right? But the more you get into it, you're gonna start hearing Taj explaining something to you that you didn't get. Because you're putting forth the energy. If you gotta knock for the door to open, you gotta look in order to find it. So you gotta have some sweat in the game. You gotta put some equity into this mission, this journey, this evolving, this emancipation. You gotta put some energy into it in order to bloom out from underneath what they got heaped on top of it. All right, you have to have a commitment for transformation, and that's only gonna take place. Ask my wife when the last time she saw me watch a sports event.
Whoa.
When was the last time you
Last time you watched a sports game? Last night?
It was silent, but it was a few days ago.
Now, how much sports events did I watch? How much sports events did I watch before I got into this information?
Oh, well, like March Madness, I'd say see you in April. Thank you.
I ain't watched one March Madness game.
No, you didn't.
Not one.
All right.
Because I have a commitment for transformation. What I'm trying to do now is change what's been heaped on top of me.
That's right.
All right? You gotta have a commitment for transformation. All right? What you need is sitting right in front of you. But you're not gonna get it until you start looking. And until the universe understands, oh, now you need it. You're gonna get it because you want it. You ain't gonna understand it because you want it. You're gonna understand it when you need to because you got your energies into it and it's gonna start opening up like a floodgate. But it ain't gonna open up if you only show up every 2 weeks. It ain't gonna open up if you just tired of studying about it when you get a chance. You gotta have a commitment to it. Because what you don't really seem to understand is that we have, even me, now I call myself intelligent. I don't know jack. I can't cuss it. I don't know jack. But I didn't know jack until I got introduced to this. Until I found out that the American was the various copper-colored races of people found here by the Europeans. That's when everything flipped, all right? And I found out all the time I thought I was dysfunctional and jacked up, I really wasn't. I was fine. And my spirit was fine, trying to keep me from falling in to all the mess that was being heaped on top of me and to get me about the hole. It's not as far away as y'all think it is. It's really close. It's just like that. And it don't make no difference what you got on a piece of paper if you don't know what the heck's on the paper. And you can't talk it, speak it, and be it. Okay?
Islam.
Islam. I got a lot of respect for these folks here, y'all, because these people right here have dedicated time and energy.
Yes, they have.
We owe it to ourselves, to our ancestors, and to their efforts to manifest what they presented for us. All right. Yes, sir.
Islam. I often go, Sister Fuller, not to throw you out there. Sister Fuller works with juvenile, and lots of times I go and I speak with them, and they angry, but I let them know that you have every right to be angry. You're right where you're supposed to be because you're warriors. I said, but you know what got you in detention is your decision making and the choices that you made. Your behavior, I would tell them that their thinking pattern. So one of the things that when you were talking about commitment, you know, I always try to get them to commit to coming in because I let them know that this is your last chance. Whether you're on a ankle monitor or whatever, this is your last chance because most of them are like the last, 17 and that's it. So it just goes back to what you were saying, that transformation. And lots of times these young people think that they are dysfunctional, but they're really not, because they were born at a time when warriorship is on. You know, and I'm letting them know, no, you know, you right where you're supposed to be right now, but it's just that you just gotta change the way you decide to do things.
Your approach.
Yeah, they gotta be taught how to.
A lot of times, you, what I'm finding, especially because I have so many people trying to get me to give them information that I don't think they're ready for. How I came to nationality was through the UCCs. I was chasing them UCCs. I was studying, I was in them UCCs. I went to Georgia to get in them UCCs. And them UCCs took me to nationality. So now, I'm ready to do my bonds. I'm ready to do my UCC 1 and my UCC 11, and I'm ready to do, and my spirit said, I ain't know why. I just knew my spirit told me to stop. I got my bonds that I did right down there in Georgia. I got them in the folder. They're all ready to get mailed up and stamped up, and still sitting in the folder. My spirit told me to stop. He's like, give me a Taj. It's the fraud. It's the fraud. You go in the UCCs, you accepted the fraud. Now you condoned it. You wanted it, didn't you? Okay, now you signed off on it. That's why my spirit told me to stop. But you gotta be in it, because the spirit won't talk to you if you ain't listening. And if it is, you ain't gonna hear it.
It's sweet, but it talks. It's sweet, but it talks.